All right, everyone, thank you for joining me for another episode of Mark on Comics. Such a beautiful day. I decided to film outside. It's a little chilly, but it's okay. So today is Super Bowl Sunday. The game has not started yet, but I need to get this done because it's due here shortly. So today what I've got for you is I've got the CovrPrice Top 10 list for February 3rd, 2025, how the books sit on the CBCS population report, and sales data. So actually I've only got 2 books with CBCS population report data. So we're going to spend a little more time on the sales data. So number 10 on our list is Mark Spears' Monsters #1, the 3rd print Nightmare on Elm Street cover. And it currently has none on the CBCS population report. And it is a 1 in 20 for the 3rd print. So let's get to that sales data. Okay, so there was a top weekly sale of $81 for a near mint. Units sold this week were 6 for a total growth of 14%. The most common raw is $77 for a near mint 9.0 through 9.4, and there's none slabbed currently, so there's none either on the CBCS population report or the CGC census. So I'm really personally getting into Mark Spears. I know a lot of you are already saying, oh yeah, Mark Spears, yay! You know, I didn't jump on that bandwagon until just recently. So I'm really enjoying it. So I think $77 for a 3rd print, yeah, it might be a little high, but it's a 1 in 20. If it weren't a 1 in 20, I might be a little more hesitant to spend that much money. But for a 1 in 20, as hot as Mark Spears is right now, yeah, I think $77 is quite reasonable. I might pick one up, I don't know, but if you like it, you should get it. So let's move on to number 9 on the list, which is all new Venom #2, the NetEase Marvel Rivals cover. So there are none on the CBCS population report, so there we go with that. But so top weekly sale was $25 in a near mint, which weekly units sold, there have been 11 with a growth rate of 25%. Most common raw was $22 for a near mint 9.0 to 9.4, and the most common slabbed was a 9.8 for $96, and this would have been CGC, as there's no CBCS books done yet. So I think if you're into Marvel Rivals, this might be a book you want to pick up. For me, I'm not all that interested in the Marvel Rivals stuff. I'm not a gamer, so it's not for me. But I can still see how a lot of people would really be into this book and should go for it. So that's number 9, all new Venom #2, NetEase Marvel's Rivals. Then we move on to number 3. This is an interesting one. It's From Hell #1, the Eddie Campbell first print. So the CBCS data on this one, there is 1 9.6 blue label, 1 8.5 blue label, and 1 7.5 yellow label. Congrats on that, whoever has that book. So the top weekly sale was a CGC 9.8 for $103. The weekly units sold has been 12 with a growth rate of 19%. Most common raw was a fine, which is a 5.0 to 6.5 for $14. And the most common slab, interesting because the weekly sale was 103, most common slab was a CGC 9.8 for $450. I'm quite interested, in case you're not aware, From Hell is a Jack the Ripper story. I think Jack the Ripper is just so bizarre and so interesting that he was never caught. So I'm liking this book. I don't own one. If I find one, I might be willing to purchase it, but that's as far as I would go there. Then we're moving on to the number 7 book, which is Mark Spears' Monsters #2. The cover A, Guess Who's Back. So there are currently none on that CBCS population report. So we'll go to the sales data. Had a top weekly sale of a raw near mint for $30. There have been 15 weekly units sold for a growth rate of 3%. The most common raw was a $28 near mint, which is 9.0 to 9.4, and the most common slab was a CGC 9.8 for $100. As I said, I'm getting into Mark Spears, so I would appreciate having one of these covers. I don't know if it's beyond my reach or not, but I'm liking it, and I think it's a really good cover, so I might pick one up. We'll see. Next, in the number 6 spot, is DC All-In Special #1, the Daniel Samfier regular wraparound cover. I don't know if you're familiar, the wraparound cover has the standard DC Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman on one side, and then if you flip it over, you've got absolute Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. So really fun cover. The census, or the population report at CBCS, there is one 9.8 blue label, and there are 4 9.8 yellow labels. So good book. Let's get to the sales data. Okay, so there was a top weekly sale of a CGC 9.8 for $102. Weekly units sold, there's been 22 sold with a growth rate of 149%. The most common raw is $14 for a near mint, and the most common slab is $103 for a 9.8. Now, I do not know if the 9.8 is CGC or CBCS. I don't think it really matters. And I own several copies of this book. So I have a couple graded, a couple raw, but I like it. I like it. I think it was a good lead-in to the Absolute Universe, so I enjoyed it. And if you're getting into Absolute Universe, you'd probably try to pick one up. I mean, with a near mint sale of only $14, get one. Get one. Now we've reached the halfway point, so at this point I want to say thank you again for joining me. Please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so the algorithm will get me in front of more people. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you much, and let's move on to number 5 on the list, which is Magic #1, the NetEase Marvel Rivals cover. Currently, there are none on the CBCS population report, so let's move over to the sales data. Top weekly sale was a CGC 98 for $120, with the number of units sold this week was 23 with a growth rate of 18%. The most common raw was a near mint for $24, and the most common slab was that 9.8 for $120. You know, Marvel Rivals, the people who love the game are just getting into this book, and they really want it. Not Magic, but any of the Marvel Rivals books. I was lucky enough, I have got a couple covers from it. I'm not interested in the NetEase, not interested in the Marvel Rivals, but I do like the covers. I really think they're quite entertaining, and I'm glad I have the ones that I do. Now we'll move on to the number 4 book, which is Dark Spaces Dungeon number 1, the Hayden Sherman Retailer Incentive Virgin 1 in 50 cover. So let's get to that sales data, because there are none on the CBCS population report. So, okay, top weekly sale, there was a $25 near mint copy sold. Weekly units sold is 12 for a growth rate of 100%. The most common raw sold is near mint for $24, and there are currently none slabbed that have been sold. So that's Dark Spaces Dungeons number 1. Then in the number 3 spot is the Seasons number 1, the Paul Azacata Retailer Thank You Black in White cover. There are none on the CBCS population report. Let's move on to the sales data. Top weekly sale, there was an $80 near mint sold. Weekly units sold is 6 for a growth rate of 100%. Most common raw was a $45 near mint, and there's currently none slabbed for sale, so no slab sales data on that one. Then we move on to number 2, which is Scarlet Witch number 7, the Peach Momoko variant cover. So there are none on the CBCS population report, so let's get on into that sales data. So top weekly sale was a near mint for $26. Weekly units sold, 24 for a growth rate of 163%. The most common raw was near mint for $22, and the most common slab right now, 9.8 for $50. If you want one slabbed, it looks like now would be a good time to pick that one up. So I'm not a Jeff the Landshark guy. I'm just not, it's not for me. But if it is for you, looks like now would be the best jumping on point to get that Scarlet Witch number 7. So now we're down to the number 1 book, according to CovrPrice, and that would be Spawn 356, the Mark Spears regular cover. Mark Spears regular, it's the regular cover, it's the A cover, the one that anybody gets, and it is number 1 on the list. So there are none on the CBCS population report, and now that means it's time to move on to the sales data. Alrighty, top weekly sale was a CGC 9.8 for $40. The weekly units sold is a total of 33 sold this week for a growth rate of 90%. The most common raw for a near mint was $31, and the most common slab was a 9.8 for $56. So those prices are a little high for me. It's a relatively new book. It's the A cover. You know, these are not rare. They're out there. But if it interests you, go get one. At 40 bucks, 30 bucks. If that's your thing, go get it. You need it, get it. It's just not for me. That's the list. I really want to say thank you so very much, and we will catch you next time on Mark on Comics. Thank you.